Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of MBTV News. Once upon a time known as Metaworld News. Probably still is. One day I'll forget and I'll use the full version
On
because
the,
it's.
the, the screen that I'm showing, there's a big banner in front of our stage that says Metaworld News.
Oh, well, you panned out quite a long way, haven't
I
you? Well,
did, yeah.
I was just about to tell folks that we're actually in a new studio. Well,
Yeah.
sort of a new old studio, really. We've just got a secondary studio now, and it's in the same location as another show, which we do after this. So it's much more convenient because we just have to swap stages, basically. Anyway, yes, this is MBTV News. It's a new show where we bring you the highlights from the last 7 days. In this case, we're broadcasting on the 22nd of January of 2023. Still remembering it. New Year's
Mm,
resolution. Remember the year.
it's working good. Working
That's
well.
a good New Year's resolution to have, isn't it? Remember the year.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll forget it by next week, but never mind, never mind. And yeah, we look at the world of immersive spaces online, virtual worlds, and all that kind of stuff. We tend to steer clear of the dreaded M word these days, especially as some people talk about a metaverse or this metaverse and that metaverse. There's no such thing. There is only, and only ever can be by definition, one metaverse. What is different is what's popping up that purports to be part of it and tries to hijack the name for its own purposes. And it's a funny old world. It's a funny old world. There's new little things popping online all the while, most of which don't seem to know what they're doing. And then there are big things already online who suddenly go boom. And I'll tell you about that in a little minute. In a little minute. Meanwhile, my name is Mal Burns. I'm your sort of newsreader, so to speak, and on the technical front, twiddling with the knobs beside me here is James Atlloud. Welcome, James.
Oh, thank you, Mal. It's fun. Not quite the first of the year, but doing some new things in the studio and the location. So
Yeah.
this is great.
And you're wearing a new hat here for the news to celebrate.
Yeah, yeah.
That's,
This was yeah. Thirza Ember gave me this hat for In World Review, and if people
yeah.
can see on the brim of the hat there, it says In World Review. It was fun. I saw no need to change it, so here I am.
We'll have to find you a newsman's cap somewhere.
Well, I'll go back to my page boy. That's fine.
We're not now. It's nice to celebrate. We're partying into the new region, as it were.
Yep,
Said.
yep.
Right, okay. Well, I'm 22nd, I should say. So, yeah, it's the week gone by. Now, it has been a weirdly week. I've been completely thrown most of the week because all my pipes in and out of Twitter have been going completely and utterly and unbelievably haywire. All because,
Oh,
well, um, the new musketeer, as I'd be calling him. I've got to find a worse description. That's actually sounds too good for him, really. Um, he's banned every third-party Twitter app going, and you now have to go into the Twitter site to do
oh,
anything. So,
wow.
as I'm reading my news and I want to post it to Twitter, which is where I am, oh, the
I was
button
just gonna
doesn't work.
say. Oh, okay.
And then I try another one that launches a side app and does the tweeting for me. And no, that app has been discontinued. Either the frame inside the app either doesn't work or it says the App Store has discontinued it. One way or another, nothing works to get you into Twitter now unless you actually have a window open, which is more real estate taken up. But also, it just interferes with the rhythm of things. And, I beta tested Twitter. I mean, I must have been using it for near on 20 years. And it's been a fundamental, all through that time, it's been a fundamental part of my life. Hey, I'm tweeting. And I've got three different Twitter accounts, one for an old account for Second Life, which I still use for arts and destinations. I've got another account for Metaworld News, which you can find still at twitter.com/Metaworld News. Whether you can find anything on it is another matter. And of course, there is twitter.com/Malburns, which I give to you every week because I tell you that that is where you'll find the links for the stories I'm mentioning, also, and many more besides. Now, it's a bit sparse this week, although technically the situation hasn't changed. Eventually, I'll be using Post, instead of Twitter, and then I'll be using a robot to forward everything into Twitter, um, just as I already do with the videos at Mastodon. But Post is doesn't have a good enough API to set that up with yet. And anyway, those are my problems. But I thought I would start off the show with a web link because this was posted today, in fact, as opposed to the other links here, which are going from the beginning of the week forward, mentioning that third-party apps Twitter just killed is actually what made the site what it is today. And nice long article here. You'll find it at theverge.com, theverge.com. And they're talking about, Twitter cutting off API access. After a few months earlier, they gave even more access to people. That's before the Musketeer owned it. Icon Factory are discontinuing Twitterific, which has got to be my absolute favorite of all the Twitter clients. Now gone. Phoenix, I didn't really use much. I think it was probably gained more at mobile. And neither Tweetbot, but I did use them from time to time. Um, and they did point out that Twitterific, the one I said was my favorite, they invented the bird. Would you believe? Twitter did not have a bird in its logo until 2010, which I know is 12 years ago now, but, originally it didn't have, I forget what it had in its logo, but it certainly wasn't anything as pretty as the good old bird. Yeah, so also a third app, apps, they started using the word tweet, so the noise that the bird would make. Twitter always called it twittering until they realized that nobody else called it twittering, and everybody would now called it tweeting. And everything. Also, Tweety, before 2010, was an official iPhone app for Twitter. Twitter didn't have an iPhone app. They finally acquired Tweety and made it the iPhone client. And they also hired another developer from a different third party to improve the Android app that they were trying to make. In fact, basically, they couldn't do anything without buying up other apps or working with other apps. And, well, they're not doing either now. It's not as though they've bought up the apps, and they're not likely collaborating either. I think we may be seeing the... I think we're going to see the end of these big tech companies now. They're too big to know what they're doing. Basically, I've long moaned about the state of the Fastbook, or Meta as it is now, and their attempts to do things. And of course, the other news this week is that AltSpace VR, the virtual world that actually has been quite popular with educators and things, that's actually owned by Microsoft, but they've abandoned it, along with cutting 30,000 people from the payroll or whatever they're doing. I had a feeling that might come because for the last couple of months, but I know we mentioned it when it happened, there is a working agreement now between Microsoft and Meta. So I don't think it's in their interest to promote a Microsoft virtual world, as it were, specific. That is, they want to include stuff that works with Meta Quest and stuff like that. So they're far from going away from the idea of virtual worlds, but I think they're going for their HoloLens and possible holograms and things. They're basically working with Meta, which is rather unfortunate because that's two giants now working together, and that implies even more monopoly. But that has been the case for a couple of months at least. Anyway, they're talking about this article at The Verge. I would urge you to read. It's quite a long article. It's almost a sort of obituary for Twitter in itself, really, saying that Twitter just wouldn't be there today if it wasn't for the third parties that have now been banned from it, so to speak. So sad news there. Okay, getting on to my let me see. I'm going to go back to the pictures there. One picture here. This is advertising January 24th, which is literally a couple of days, 2 days from now, Tuesday, isn't it? If you're in Paris, you can look up in Google or whatever the All Night in Paris, but they also record these things on the international AWE site. So it'd be a kind of an evening gig of people in the field basically meeting up for video taped social, this time in Paris, which makes a change from Italy and Florence and New York and San Francisco and everywhere else. So lots happening in Paris. So they don't have one in London, which is a bit annoying, really. But never mind. I probably wouldn't get out and go anyway. And a quick little ad here about for a Meta Tour. Now I don't believe, despite the way they've done the logo here, that I don't think this actually has anything to do with Meta. Their company, so
Yeah,
to
hard to
speak.
tell, isn't it?
So it's another attempt at a social interaction word, which is I haven't really got anything more for you on this, but it's within our brief, so to speak. So I've got it there, and you can actually scan the QR code, but I don't know whether you want to do it from this video transmission. But there's their address, metator.com, metator.com, and that's how you get hold of them. Now, there was something else. Oh, yes, something else is behind the scenes here at Metaworld. We do have a server called Metaworld, and I also run a Hypergrid Creators and Explorers server, both on Discord. And I've actually started opening up the Metaworld server to a wider range of people, shall we say, involved in virtual world broadcasting and stuff like that, although it's still invite only. If you're interested, let me know. But the Hypergrid Explorers and Creators is totally open, and more people pouring in all the while, really. The reason I mention that is that I've been working a little bit with none other than the two Rosedales, actually, Philip and his son August, on a fair share project, and we're now starting to put the linking it into other servers that want to be a part of it, and the virtual currency I'm using on MetaWorld, we decided. This is over a week ago, actually. The things that reminded me of is, on the spur of the moment, I decided to call it MetaBucks.
Nice.
As in Meta World, and Bucks as a tribute to the American thing. And then I suddenly realized I've gone and done it again, haven't I? I've used the bloody meta.
It's all right. You can have meta.
So here I am, sort of looking at things like this, saying, as far as I can tell, it's something to do with Facebook. And likewise, my virtual currency on the MetaWorld server is called MetaBucks. I don't think it's ever going to be noticed, because the whole idea is these are localized currencies that is run by self-administered by small groups, and then a network that exchanges between the groups. But it's got a built-in. I'll be doing an interview with Philip, I think, on this very shortly. But it's got a built-in mechanism by which you can't hoard and make money. It's constantly being redistributed, however much you earn, kind of thing. But complicated to explain. Anyway, look out for MetaBucks. If you see MetaBucks on one of the Discord servers, you'll know it's one of my group that's posted it. So, a bit like Monopoly Money at the moment, because all the members of a group using it have to vote before it can actually ever be anchored to a real world currency, and it's more likely to be anchored to another fair share currency, as it were. But economics is not my thing, except to moan about them. It's the end of capitalism, folks. New money system. It's not blockchain and all that, crypto or anything like that. It's very different. Anyway, enough of my talk about that. I'll hear about that in future weeks. Okay, back onto this show. Okay, I'm not really going. I haven't really got any videos per se to show, as it were, today. Just going to try and, on my view at least, get a little bit of his head in. Okay, this is Jesse Anderton, I think, otherwise known as Mr. Metaverse. He's one of the major players behind the Open Metaverse Initiative and stuff like that. And this is the second of a series of shows he's doing. He posted this a couple of days ago.
Hey guys, it's Jesse Alton, Mr. Metaverse, and this is the Metaverse Interrupt Show. We got for you today talk a bit about ChatGPT, which is all the rage. And we'll also take a dive into one of my favorite, Magic ML, and what they've been able to accomplish in such a short time. Stay tuned and hopefully you learn something. It's the Metaverse Interrupt Show. How was that?
Very funny. Right, giving you an idea here because also it's stuttery, which is odd. This is an offline copy I'm showing you. I don't know why it's behaving like this. I hope my other videos don't do this. Just flicking through it there. I mean, he obviously does a lot of screenshots from Discord and various labs and things like that. It's a very technical show. It's not really much. He's very accessible speaking, but it's not like an everyman show. But it's one I think anybody who's interested in the open metaverse and what's going on there would be sort of interested in. This particular one is the second one, and it's a bit better put together than the first one. And it runs for about 13 minutes. You can. Oh, I think you'll find this in. I think you'll actually find this in my Twitter feed, courtesy of the Mastodon feed. If not, I'll let you know. The other one, this one's about 6 minutes long. It's a bit flashy. I'm not going to run all of it, but this is from BMW, the motor car people. You can't keep anybody out of a so-called metaverse these days, have you? This is their idea of their metaverse. Only guest stars somebody who I've never seen as an avatar, and I'm not sure I want to either. You'll know it when you see it.
Of the future, about love and friendship, and about a brand new BMW, of course. Wait a minute.
What the?
Not a golf cart, come on.
Okay, honey, the car chase is next. Put this on and we'll meet in the virtual studio.
I don't know about this. I can put this on. Why don't we do it the old-fashioned way?
Okay, there's something wrong with this video, although what's the other one? I hope it's not going to apply to everything, but we don't have many voice clips anyway. In case you can't tell, it looks more something like out of The Hobbit or something, but that actually is Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
who looks a bit more like himself later on in the promo, so obviously they're a bit of high budget there. Not so much with the avatars, but with the actors they want to pretend.
So Mel, just interrupt on your screen leap. We're seeing the URL path at the top of the screen.
Oh, my local party. Maybe.
Yeah. Yep. So I can tell which hard drive is giving you problems. There we go. That's better. Thank you.
Oh, yes. I don't think it's hard drive. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to quit that program completely, and which brings us back to the links thing, and I'm going to quickly press a button here that will hopefully clean up the system while we're looking at some more page links. Okay, so back to the websites of the week, and enough about Twitter. Starting off the week, of course, Tony Patillo, otherwise known as the Scar Ghost, begins the week with his roundup. It's called the XR Week Peak, and it has a musical soundtrack, probably. Yeah. The big news this week, apart from his peak week, is I think on Tuesday he was on the plane and said, "I'm on the plane to somewhere. I'm not telling you where yet." And on Wednesday, he's on a trip to China. Which of course has just lifted its COVID restrictions, and he was going on about, or he had a video showing he kitted himself out and was taking every precaution and everything, and of course the first thing that happened when he got there, well, 2 days in, and it's now the year of the monkey, so he's been celebrating the year of the monkey. Maybe we will end up with a scarred monkey ghost at some point, who knows? Or maybe he'll never get back from China, but apparently he's going to be meeting a few people there and seeing what's happening in their interpretation of the metaverse over there. Back to the week peak, of course, this is a roundup of not the past week for us here, but the past week that finished on January 16th. So the week before last, so to speak. He's talking about, well, by then he's in China, of course, launching the Vroom platform that used to be a website in its own right. Meta now discontinued the Quest 1, So that's Quest 1 and the Oculus are now gone, isn't it? I think. I don't know. Meta is Meta, isn't it? They don't really matter. Aha. Right. That's a good one. They don't really matter. Right. I better shut up before I come up with equally corny rubbish. Nobody's laughing, that's for sure. Right. Okay. Selected developers have received an Apple headset, but we heard this later in the week. We heard the news that the Apple AR headset has been delayed by maybe a year, but in fact, the VR or the light AR VR version is the one that will come earlier, possibly even later in the spring. Roblox, meanwhile, may be coming to Quest, and right. Yeah, it's a one thing. Skull Ghost has wonderful reviews, and they also last forever and ever. But he's one of the people who's still enthusiastic about Meta and covers them a lot. Which, yeah, I imagine his audience, many of them, are still interested in Meta.
As
Anyway,
am I. As am I.
yeah, of course you are. That, by the way, is scarghost.com, SKARREDGHOST.com for that site. And moving on to an old familiar one, roadtovr.com, which is misbehaving. No, it's not anymore. Right. 2022 was a plateau year for VR. Here's what to expect in 2023. We're not Ben Lang here, of course. We're still not finished with the predictions and everything else. They don't usually get anybody very far, but sometimes people end up with a lucky guess, don't they? Obviously, talking about Quest having retained its position as a leader in terms of devices, can't really argue with that long term. But whether their product over and beyond the hardware is going to maintain itself, we don't know. And so on the horizon, the launch of PS VR 2, that's PlayStation VR 2 in February. And what else is there? I'm trying to think. A competition for Meta in the form of the Vive XR Elite, which we read about last week. Yeah, the usual stuff. So roadtovr.com is the address you want here. And it'll be in one of the recent articles there. It's basically what to expect in 2023. And the idea that 2022 was a plateau year, it's flattened out, meaning. Right, moving on to arinsider.co. Let me just remove some of these items that I've already told you about, lest I get confused. Right. arinsider.co, not com, just co. And they've got this little roundup of 7 podcasts that will make you smarter about XR. XR, of course, stands for extended reality, and it's a bit of an umbrella term to include virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed realities, and a whole load of other suspect realities other than the real realities, if you see what I mean. Except arguably they're equally real as real realities, if you also see what I mean. No mind about that. Right. These are the ones they've chosen. The AR show. Not that familiar with that one. Voices of VR. Well, you know how often I talk about that. This Week in XR, which is just a video and audio podcast, and so not always the same, and there's two web pages to go with them. It's all a bit confusing, but it's Charlie Fink, and the podcast is with Ted Shilowitz. And the VR download, well, we know about this one, don't we, James? This is James's favorite, I think.
Yeah, it's one of the few that actually uses VR characters to do VR. Oh, we do that too. I'm sorry.
Yes, we do. I was just about to remind you of the fact. In fact, you are an avatar on screen at this very minute. I'm looking at you.
It's amazing. I know. I forget.
And although you are sitting down, I will guarantee the listeners that you have legs.
I have legs, indeed.
Yeah. Everything else we have here. So. Okay, we'll be back on them later, I guess. Everything VR and AR, I think I've heard of that a couple of times, but I haven't really followed it. Between Realities is another video one, of course, that In fact, just yesterday or this morning, I forget which, I actually posted the latest one of those in my Mastodon feed. Field of view, I don't know anything about this at all. I have to check this one out when I have time. This article does have plenty of links for these anyway. So that little roundup, if you want the links and everything else and read a bit more about them, is arinsider.co, ARINSIDER.co. Moving on down the list. This is technologyreview.com, technologyreview, and then a .com. Right, inside the metaverse meetups that let people share on death, grief, and pain. Now, this isn't quite as sinister as you might think. It's really, people have meetups in the metaverse and they talk about things. And you would expect them to, somewhere down the line, people would be talking about, death and particularly grief, people who are mourning lost loved ones and all that sort of stuff, talking with others and stuff. So it is just a nice little article. Obviously, a lot of the people in this category are sort of going on a little bit, shall we say, in years. But anyway, it just they talk to a few people in the elderly the elderly community who've been making good use of VR and things, and the chat functions within it, obviously, as well. So quite a long article there as well. So that's at technologyreview.com. Right, Wired.com have an article on metaverse landlords who are creating a new class system. Basically, people buying up virtual land, finding new ways to put their investments to work with unintended, or maybe I would say intended consequences. I mean, you invade a country somewhere back in history, right? It's quite a small island, somewhere like the size of New Zealand or Great Britain. Eventually, you've got it all, haven't you? Not much, no more land to conquer, so you just monopolise your little island there, and technically the government owns everything, unless, like in Britain here, we got a monarch who owns it on behalf of the government. But semantics, please. The thing is, they can charge you whatever rent you want. Now, that isn't the way it works, of course, in property under New Zealand or Britain for that matter. But technically, the land belongs to the country, and the country can choose how to rent it. Now, if they own all of it, they can fix the price for a plot. There is only competition when there is new free plots available to be, pioneers can discover new land and take that land, kind of thing. So the idea of virtual land parcels is really it's the antithesis of any kind of democracy or fair trading system. It's what's now being levelled at blockchain and Bitcoin and lots of the not so much the blockchain itself, but digital coinage and currencies. Basically, everybody who had lots of money to speculate when these things came online got in there, and now it's losing its value, but more to the point, everything's been bought up, so to speak, and people are monopolizing out of something in theory was meant to be a whole new democracy. Anyway, let's see. The Wired have actually had a good look at this, including the way MasterCard and Heineken have been renting plots of land to put product showcases and one-off events on. But of course, they are renting plots from other so-called virtual companies that are making all the money. But if you've got a computer at home, as we know with OpenSim, you can actually bring on. Well, you need a good bandwidth, of course, for the servers, but you can actually bring on a plot of land, that could be 100 miles by 100 miles, the virtual equivalent anyway, and give people homes on your on your server. But then again, you're not monopolizing, because people can go to other servers and search for other bits of land, and maybe they're cheaper. So there is a free market thing there, but that has rapidly been disappearing from the virtual land grabs. Basically, nothing is moderated. There's no laws governing it the way real land is governed, and the rules for landlords and renters and stuff, they don't exist in the virtual world. So it's a Wild West, basically. And typically it is tend to be in the West. Okay, that article you'll find at Wired.com anyway, wired.com, as if you wouldn't know that one. And quite a few here now coming up. This is weforum.org. This is the other big thing that's happening this week. weforum.org. Now, the WeForum is my mind's gone blank. The World Economic, World Economic Forum. So it's WE and then Forum. So yeah, they've missing an F, as it were. Right. Anyway, Peggy Johnson, who of course is maybe very familiar with people around Second Life. A decade or so ago, she was one of the people I believe that actually had to appear in Congress with Philip Rosedale to actually explain to Congressmen and women what the hell it was. Anyway, 3 shared principles to maximize the value of the metaverse. And it promises to integrate digital and physical worlds. Now, this is the World Economic Forum here, and this is the second year they've had quite a big focus on it, promising integration and everything else, matching the digital and physical worlds together. Talking about, implications, transformative. This, if anybody knows this stuff, there's nothing radically new here, but it's well put. And it's also put, with an eye on the kind of major global players that you find at the World Economic Conference and what they're actually doing about it. So quite a lot to read here. And this is just one of the actual articles you'll find at WeForum this week. So that's weforum.org. Removing that one. Not sure how these next ones may be open. I think they may both be behind paywalls, but I did have them earlier. First of all, this is just VentureBeat, a popular site. The Linus Foundation. This has been retweeted a lot, actually, so obviously I caught something important here. Linux Foundation launches the Open Metaverse Foundation. Oh, we got another Open Metaverse something, yeah? To move the metaverse to reality, and Dean Takahashi, of course, is the VentureBeat reporting there. Building an accessible, interoperable open metaverse for all. So everybody's on board with these sort of things, and particularly with Linux here too. Yeah, there's a little bit of information there. Also, enough about the GamesBeat Summit for you to register for, which has a major, sort of virtuality metaverse component to it. So they're advertising that at the same time. Right, so as I said, venturebeat.com, venturebeat.com.
Well, and on that topic, Mel, I know that we were talking about that at Avicon, and we're thinking, boy, that could be a great alignment for the OpenSim developers to, because Linux also being a core open source software, that has a lot of commercial implementations, but it could be helpful to OpenSim. So
it's true. I mean, a lot of OpenSim servers do run on Linux machines.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, very much so. Of course, the idea of the open metaverse is that it will, it doesn't matter what back end, servers and regions and things are running on. They should all be interactive across, across platforms, but across operating systems, across devices. It's a long way off, but that's really any definition of a metaverse, for example, requires it being open and interoperable and accessible, and it involves so much. We've used the term long before Marcus. I think probably before the Zuki baby was born, but it still only be a kind of hypothetical sort of vision of something that it may emerge, and of course spurred on by Neil Stephenson's creation of the word in the Snow Crash novel. But Anyway, so as I say, this is at venturebeat.com. Now, moving on, this is behind a paywall, I think, but I was checking it. Right, yeah, right. No, there's a little, yeah, that's it. Now I was able to, there we are. I'm able to force it into a reader. Okay, how the World Economic Forum plans to bring leaders together in the metaverse. Now, this is an article at time.com about the same forum that's been happening all week. The World Economic Forum hopes to change that with something they're calling the Global Collaboration Village. And they've already introduced it now at Davos. And very picturesque looking town and very green looking, except I looked at this picture and I saw wonderful blue sky, just a few clouds around. And then I looked above this idyllic location and I realized the clouds weren't clouds, they were vapor trails. There was more aircraft activity over that poor little town. It looked healthy, you know, and well, so much for utopia. Anyway, the virtual village has been designed to function and look like a real Swiss town, except the people are convening in co-working spaces, attending conferences in government buildings and browsing museums, ordering so as avatars. And basically, it then talks about the village, the virtual village, as it were. It's been built using Microsoft Mesh. Oh, and by the way, I mentioned Alt Space VR has disappeared, but despite that, one of the things Microsoft have really been pushing, and especially this week, is Microsoft Mesh, which is an in-the-world immersive sort of system that will probably work with collaboration software teams. But yeah,
and Mesh, it should be headset agnostic, with any luck. So.
Yeah, apparently they're using Oculus headsets at Davos, and I wonder if they really are Oculus or whether they're Quest or whether they. There's a lovely picture on the cover of Time. I didn't manage to clip it, but people have been complaining about because it shows all the major political leaders wearing Oculus headsets, I guess. Obviously, an illustrated thing, probably genuine illustration rather than an AI job. But you know, suggesting that these people are actually in headsets and using them, and people have been saying basically, well, the World Economic Forum may be working on this, but the actual chief politicians, the prime ministers and monarchs and things like that, are very unlikely to be going into headset land themselves. You know, they'll be sending their bureaucrats in, presumably. But you know, they're talking about ocean environmentalists, etc., and creating simulation of the depths of the sea, and how they can use sound to help restore the coral reefs, and a lot of interesting stuff that they can do with simulations. Yeah, they're talking about the image, the village being rolled out at Davos, and the impact could be a lot larger than the other 51 weeks of the year. You know, it's the ideal time to promote it. Right, anyway, so that's that. Remove that item. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're fine for time. Okay, just a couple left here. Right, weforum.org yet again. weforum.org. And what is going on there? I have to ask. Right. Okay, it looks like this WeForum page is not happy about being converted into a reading page. Okay, that's a little clip. I have this clip separately, actually. This was a major panel they had called New Reality Building the Metaverse. Not much of what was there actually turned up on video, but this one did, fortunately, and I managed to grab it. Even if you registered with them, you can't seem to find many video replays at the moment. This was just advertising the thing and who was on it. Nicholas Thompson's Chris Cox, who's from Meta, of course, and somebody else. Oh yeah, Neil Stephen himself there, and Kathy Lee. That's very good. It doesn't seem a year ago since they had last year's session, which of course Philip Rosedale was on, and somebody else, I think the same guy from Meta was on it, on that one too. Bias is what I call it. Yeah. Anyway, all this at weforum.org, weforum.org. Right. Moving on to a more familiar site, this is Forbes.com, Forbes.com, and this is the weekly end of the week post from Charlie Fink. Again, he's looking at the World Economic Forum, as you might expect, and being American, he's got to put an American representative in focus, hasn't he? Who was there on a panel session. Don't think Biden or I've forgotten the name. I like his vice president, whatever her name is. Right. Okay, the virtual village was made by Microsoft and Accenture. So, of course, despite AltSpace VR going, then Microsoft and Accenture are busy building the virtual world, or the virtual village in this case, for Davos. And, you know, it's quite considerable. It's not like just one small region that we might, in another platform, we might refer to. So there's Stevenson, there's again. Yeah, so basically Charlie Fink doing a pretty big roundup, news from Apple on their headsets and everything in between there. As you can see, a long post this week. So you'll find it at Forbes.com, Forbes.com. A reminder that all these links I'm showing you are actually mercifully still at my Twitter account, twitter.com/MalBurns, or rather just, well, yeah, twitter.com/MalBurns will get you there. And I'm going to be endeavoring to still get the links sent to Twitter for you, but it's been a struggle this week because a simple matter of posting a link, instead of being one button clicked and away, has become 2 virtual desktops and 5 clicks away. You know, it's not very good for my rhythm of routine. Right, okay, and then the big news, of course, from Microsoft itself is that AltSpace VR is sunsetting their platform on March the 10th. Seems to have come as quite a surprise for a lot of people. I was possibly less surprised, but I think, you know, there used to be, I forgot what it was called now, there was a very similar thing to AltSpace VR on the web a while ago, and it was bought up by Yahoo, who said they wanted the technology to do something with, and of course they never did anything with it. And I'm afraid that AltSpace VR may end up this way. Microsoft killed it once before, or somebody did, and it might be Microsoft that then bought it and revived it. I don't know, but this will be the second time it's technically gone. Whether there be a user or open source community who could actually bring it back and get permission to do so, of course, at the same time. We'll have to see. But anyway, March the 10th, that's what, 6 or 7 weeks it looks like for you to get your stuff. This is their own site, altvr.com. And as you can see, there is a link here where you can go to find out how to download any content you've got on the platform. So you've got 6 or 7 weeks to actually recover all your stuff, such as you can, if you're able to use it anywhere else, of course. So that's it for the linkies. I'm going to try relaunching the viewer component that was stuttering and stammering on me a bit earlier. I don't know whether it's still doing it. I don't actually have much here. I did, I promoted that bit already, and this BMW thing. I'm just going to run it just to check the stuttering.
Good old days, and I know both cars.
Oops.
Sure, it isn't because you were a bit.
I don't even know why I'm talking to you.
I mean, seriously, how did people back then survive without the internet? Or unbelievably something?
To convince you there's something very special about the good old days.
Right. Okay. That's it, really. I did mention I had some video here from the talk at the World Education Economic Forum. Getting confused here today.
You either get them at a Davos panel or a party at Mark Benioff's house. That's the only way you can possibly.
Okay, I don't know what's wrong with my video player today.
First off, I'll be taking questions through Slido. So please not
You can hear what's going on. Mass is around. There's nothing that should be doing this.
What are the questions that they removed as we go?
Unless there's some interference on my incoming bandwidth. But, okay, I'm going to leave that because I'm just going to end up fretting about the stuttering video. We've got through some of the links of the week anyway, everything apart from the video teasers I had there. And I think, actually, looking at the clock here, we're on time, I think, for this week, by about 40 minutes or something. So, James, any thoughts on this, that, and the other, which I've already covered before we vermish from this place?
No, I'm actually, I don't work in alt space, so I'm not particularly affected by that closure, but I am very interested in mesh and how that's going to work. And I like the fact that it's multi-platform. So yeah. I mean, it runs in Teams, so that's where it needs to start. But then you can use a variety of headsets, the Oculus, the HoloLens, and I'm hoping it'll support a Steam VR. And so then that way, you could, any headset that works with Steam VR would work with this virtual world. So that's pretty cool.
And I think that may do something to balance out the. I'm not happy about it, but I mean that may do something to balance out the monopoly of Meta. If Microsoft are working with them, it's not as though Meta have bought Microsoft or vice versa.
Is that two villains working together, or is that a villain and an angel working together?
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Aren't they all villains, Mal? Aren't they all villains?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. They're chasing the money.
But we love what they do.
Yeah.
It's excited.
Dodgy, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, we talk about them a lot, so we must like them.
Back to the earth and go green and give up electricity and everything else. But hang on.
All right, I'm pulling the plug. Here we go. I'm pulling the plug.
How do I get my things to work without electricity?
The feed's going dead. We're going black, folks. We're going back to the earth.
It's really cold in Britain at the moment. I woke up this morning and I came in here at the front and I thought, finally the weather's getting warmer again. 3 or 4 hours later, I realised I'd left the radiator on overnight.
Oh, okay.
It's actually what I got, an emergency radiator that I put on in the evening to boost power, and I forgot to switch it off before I went to bed. There's no wonder the place felt warm.
Wow. Yep.
Now the heat's worn off, I realise it's still cold. But there you go.
Yep.
Oh dear, yes, electricity is, we got, we've just got to get the wind power and the ocean power and the solar power and all these things working properly.
We're working on it. They're working on it.
Working on it. Okay, well, I think we'll call it a quiz for this week. Hope you've all enjoyed the show, folks. It's goodbye from me and James here. And we will be back, hopefully, same time, same place. This new little fangled similar studio to the old one next week. In the meantime, look after yourselves. If in doubt, stay indoors. And if indoors, go online. And if going online, go into a interactive world. A virtual world. An immersive environment. That's your destination forevermore. Maybe. That's what the World Economic Forum says. So there. It's not a pipe dream. Unless they're all smoking too much as well. Right. Okay. With that, we'll just say we'll see you next week. And for now, it's a wrap. Bye for now.